All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar about Valley Leadership's new program, Ready Together. My name is Bridget Jones, and I'm really glad you've all made the time to join us today. If you haven't already, please share your name and where you live in Arizona by typing it into the chat box. After that, take a second to locate the Q&A box. If you have any questions that come up while you're watching and listening, you can submit them there, and then we have time at the end to start answering them. So with that, let's get started. Let's take a second to walk through how we'll spend our time together. First, we'll talk briefly about who we are and the work that Valley Leadership does. Then we'll talk about why we're launching Ready Together, and we'll give you a sense of what the experience will be like. After that, we'll briefly talk about why you should apply, and then we'll wrap up our time together with a Q&A session. First of all, who we are. I want to quickly introduce our team. Again, my name is Bridget. You're going to be hearing my voice a lot on our call. Dave is going to be helping us out with answering some questions at the end. Michelle also will be sharing with you later on in the call. Sarah is going to help us run our Q&A session. And Bailey's going to help us make sure that the webinar is functioning the way that we want it to. So if you have any trouble with Zoom, you can enter some questions to the panelists in the box and she'll be able to see it. For those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, Valley Leadership is a nonprofit that's based in Phoenix and focused on making a positive impact in Arizona. We've been around for 40 years and we've helped a lot of people grow their leadership skills through our programs. We hope that you'll become one of those people as well. As an organization, our entire purpose is to bring a broad spectrum of Arizonans together to work in collaboration as leaders in order to meaningfully impact the most pressing issues facing Arizona. Now, ultimately, we are a leadership development organization. So it's really important for you to know that when we say leaders, we're not talking about somebody's position or responsibilities at work. When we talk about leadership, we're talking about people stepping up to do the things that need to get done. We know that true leadership doesn't require a type of educational or career background because leadership is about action, not about position. So, what kinds of actions qualify as leadership? In thinking through this, we found it helpful to picture some challenge that we are dealing with as if it's a fire. Now, the knee-jerk response most of us have to seeing a fire is to grab the nearest bucket or watering can in this case, and do our best to throw some water on it to put it out. Others of us may freak out a little bit and just decide to blow on the fire, which, while it's coming from a good place, is a terrible idea because we know oxygen only makes a fire worse. Now, we do need to put out the fire, especially if there's a bomb next to it, and allowing that fire to spread could lead to total disaster. But we don't want to focus solely on putting out the fire day after day if it just keeps coming back. Leadership is taking the time to ask what is causing the fire, and what can we do about that? Here we've got a guy shooting flaming arrows into the center of our fire. So somebody needs to figure out how to get him to stop doing that. But at some point, if getting the guy to stop shooting flaming arrows is all that we're doing day in and day out, we are still not taking the time to work toward a greater vision of what we want to be true. Leadership is working toward that greater vision. Something that goes beyond stamping out fires and hiding flaming arrows. We need to figure out what it is that we want to be true and make at least some of our time and energy spent focused on that bigger picture. Maybe that looks like some people putting out the remaining fire, some people stopping the guy with the arrows, and some people charting out the steps it takes to get toward that greater vision. Or maybe that looks like one person moving back and forth, dividing their time and energy between all three. Either way, leadership is about assessing that crisis, then getting out of crisis mode so that we can chart a path forward that actually makes things better in the long run. Now, making things better in the long run can happen on multiple levels. As an example, let's use a challenge of increasing access to high quality food. At the individual level, it could take actions to ensure that my family is eating more fruits and vegetables every day. At the community level, addressing that challenge could look like volunteering with or raising money for an organization that is working to get locally grown produce into the hands of families who really need it. At a systemic level, addressing that challenge could look like improving the quality of food offered to kids at school, or increasing the number of grocery stores in areas that need them, or any other intervention that improves access to healthy food on a large scale. The point is that it takes leadership to make that change at any level, and all three levels matter. The opportunities to make change at every level have never been greater than they are right now. Because the reality is that COVID-19 has made its way to every part of Arizona, and we know that staging a successful recovery from this crisis will require everyone who can to pitch in to take meaningful action to solve the biggest issues facing our families, our communities, and our state. As an organization, we realized that the best way for us to help in this moment was to broaden our reach and create a program that's open to any Arizonan committed to making a positive impact right now. And that's why we've launched Ready Together. The program will allow everyone who joins to connect with fellow Arizonans, expand their knowledge and perspective about the state's most pressing needs, build skills to navigate and adapt to challenges, collaborate to aid Arizona on the path to recovery, be driven to do by making Arizona stronger and more resilient than ever, and develop a plan to make sure their new knowledge and insight turns to real impact. Now, let's be honest, this pandemic has really thrown us all for a loop, but this moment demands more from us. If you are here today, it's likely because you find yourself in one of three places. You could be searching for purpose in this moment, something that's larger to connect and drive your actions. You could be living out your purpose, taking actions every day to get us through this moment, but you're craving connection with others and a space to voice your experience. Or you could be seeking clarity on whether there's something more or something different that you could be doing in this moment. Now, I'm super curious to see how each of you would describe what drew you to this webinar today. In just a second, you'll see a poll asking you to select whether you're seeking purpose, connection, clarity, or something else. Please respond to the poll, and if you choose the something else option, just let us know what that something else is in the chat box. I see some all of the above, trying to find an impactful way to help during this time. It looks like we've got a decent balance of purpose, connection, and clarity. Most folks are looking for some purpose right now and really that connection. And you should see, I believe, the results popping up on your screen there. So it looks like if this was a competition, which it's not, purpose won. So thank you for taking the time to share. And we will move on. So let's talk about what the Ready Together experience is all about. The content and structure of the program can be broken down into three main categories: relationships, issues, and impact. The program design will prioritize relationship building through small group activities and discussions, and through the use of interactive digital tools. The issues-based content will emphasize the interconnectedness of Arizona's greatest challenges and will address aspects of broader topics like education, healthcare, the economy, and child well-being. The impact component of the program will set participants up to act on their new knowledge and insight in order to make a real difference in the community. And woven throughout all of that content, you're going to find opportunities to learn about and live out our principles of doing. These 5 principles are foundational to Valley Leadership's mission and form the basis of every program, including Ready Together. We want our participants to be driven to do, always ready to put in the work to get things done. We want everyone to put Arizona first, prioritizing solutions that are best for the whole state. We value building trust, prioritizing mutual respect and a willingness to listen. We promote a team mindset where everyone pulls their own weight and stays committed to reaching the group's goal. And we want everyone to operate with integrity, making sure their actions reflect their beliefs and that they're honest with themselves and others. So now that you have an idea of that big picture, let's talk about what the program will look like, starting with structure. Ready Together is made up of 8 live online sessions. The first session is going to take place in early September, and the final will happen in early January. Each session will run for 3 hours, and sessions will take place once per week, every other week. You can also expect to spend up to an hour and a half preparing for each session. Now, when it comes to when the sessions will happen, we'll likely run the same session twice for all 8 of the program dates so that we can accommodate as many people as possible, because we know that people's work schedules differ. And if we wind up needing a morning and an evening option, you'll be able to choose a session that works best for you based on your availability. So I know that all of this big picture information might not necessarily help you understand what the experience will be like. And I want to help you paint a picture of the types of things that you can expect to learn about and do. So before an online session, you're going to spend time engaging with resources that we've selected that relate to the topics we're covering that week. For example, one week we might look at how the pandemic is forcing schools to close and how that has changed education in our state. And we're going to explore some of the ripple effects that those closures have had on kids, like stalling grade level progress or decreasing their access to food. So to get ready for that session, you might be asked to read a relevant newspaper article or watch a short video or listen to something. You'll also be asked to think about your personal views of the topics by answering some questions that we'll provide. And then finally, you're going to be asked to seek out each other's views by getting some people in your own circle to share their thoughts with you on the topics that we'll be discussing. And then during the session, you can expect to talk with small groups, discussing your thoughts and digesting new information that's presented during the session. You'll engage with people who are working in the relevant field or industry, and you'll take part in some form of group activity. After the Ready Together program comes to an end, the real work begins. Your time in the program is all about creating a plan for yourself about what you can do to meet a need in the community that really speaks to you. Your time after the program is all about doing what needs to get done to have a real impact in Arizona, whether that's on an individual, a community, or a systemic level. I know that was a lot of information to take in about the content of the program. So let's just pause here for a second. And in just a moment, I'd just like everyone to respond to another poll. What is sparking your interest the most about Ready Together from what you've heard so far? Is it about the meeting and collaborating with new people? Is it about learning more about the issues facing Arizona? Or is it figuring out what you want to do to make an impact? And you should see the poll up right now. All right. Thank you all for continuing to respond. We've got 30 of you responding, 31. Ooh. And it looks like, similar to what we were seeing before, people are really hoping to figure out what they can do to make an impact right now. And they're still curious about that meeting and collaborating with new people, and also learning about the issues that are facing Arizona. I've put the results on the screen so you can see a little bit about what folks are saying. And as we hoped, we're seeing folks who are really wanting to make that impact, really wanting to collaborate with folks and meet new people and learning about those issues. So on that note, I am actually going to turn it over to Michelle, who's going to share a little bit more about the program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Bridget. So at this point, you have a sense of what the Ready Together experience will be like. And now I'd like us to take a second and just revisit the quote that you saw earlier in this presentation. Because we believe that leadership is action and not position, we really believe that everyone has the potential to demonstrate leadership. So what that means is that we are not looking for people within a specific age group. Or people who've lived here a certain number of years. We don't care what your day-to-day experience looks like or where in the state you happen to live. So what are we looking for? We want anyone who lives in Arizona, who wants to make a positive impact on this state, and who's willing to put in the time and energy required to figure out how to make that impact happen. We're casting such a wide net because we know everybody on this call today has a lot to offer. Each person has a unique set of life experiences that has worked to shape their personal story and given you valuable perspective. Everyone here has a different combination of strengths. Strengths you can explore and leverage to make a positive change. And finally, just by joining us here today, it's clear that everybody is committed to figuring out what more they can do to make our community better. As a Ready Together participant, you'll be asked to give your time. We'll ask you to spend 4.5 hours every 2 weeks over the course of the program. We'll also ask for your focus. We'll need you to be fully present during the online sessions and as you explore the content in preparation for those sessions. In return, you'll get personal growth. The new information, resources, and tools you receive will help you as you spend time thinking about who you are, who you want to be, and what role you want to play in Arizona's path to recovery. And finally, you'll gain connection. You'll gain a new network of Ready Together peers, become part of the Valley leadership community, and connect to a larger purpose as you take actions that help you live out the plan you made for personal impact. So to apply, you'll want to visit valleyleadership.org/readytogether. There you can read more about the program and click Apply Now to complete and submit your online application by June 22nd. Applications will be reviewed on a rolling basis. We'll also be sure to include this link in the chat box so that you can access the page directly from there. Now, at this point, you might be wondering about cost. As we set the cost for Ready Together, we wanted to make sure and consider individuals' economic circumstances. And so we've created a sliding scale. Frontline workers and those who are unemployed will pay $50. Nonprofit employees and government employees will pay $250. And those working in the private sector will pay $500. In just a moment, we're going to dive into our Q&A, but before we do, I wanted to encourage everyone here to share what you've learned about Ready Together with a friend or two that you think would be interested in joining this program. Let them know that our next webinar is happening on Tuesday, June 16th at 7:30 a.m. And with that, we're going to dive into our Q&A. So if you haven't already, go ahead and type questions you have into the Q&A box, and we'll respond to them in the order they're received. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sarah, who's going to read out our questions for us.
Hey everyone. It looks like we've got one question that's come in so far around whether or not housing in Arizona will be covered as a topic. So Michelle or Bridget, would you like to take that one on?
Yes, so given that housing is actually a major factor in the interconnectedness between all of the issues, that will definitely be one of the topics that comes up.
Great, looks like we've got another one about if participating in Ready Together would impact eligibility in other Valley Leadership programs when those resume in 2021.
Oh, great question. No, in no way will it impact one way or another. So if you have already been through a Valley Leadership program, this is open to you. And if you end up being part of Ready Together, you are still welcome to be part of any of our programs moving forward.
Great, one more that's come through is about participating and how to recreate the sort of tours process that, the experiential process that Valley Leadership is known for in a virtual setting like this.
So the tours, the question is, the tours mostly happen in Institute. And so this is not meant to be a replacement for our 9-month Institute program. It's meant to sit on its own. And so tours are only part of that program. And so they will not be part of this program as well.
Great. Also, can we talk a little bit more, Bridget or Michelle, about the group interactions, some questions around that, and whether or not those will be completely virtual or if we'll have any opportunity for any in person?
Great question. So right now, especially given the uncertainty of everything, we are planning for everything to be virtual. That being said, if anything should change, we may have an opportunity to have something in addition that's in person. And anybody who's part of this program will also be invited to join any of our social programs as we are able to bring people together again. That being said, the types of virtual interactions that we will have, you'll be both placed within a group that you'll be able to kind of see over and over again virtually. So you can hear their experiences, build some deeper relationships there. And then as well, you'll be placed into different groups where you'll be able to meet new people and interact in those ways as well. This experience is meant to be, the experience itself is meant to be completely in person. And so where we're able, we may augment that, but the experience itself is meant to be virtual, just given all of the uncertainty around the pandemic and the impact that that may have over the next year.
Great, and one follow-on question that's around software being used. Will Zoom be the software being used, or will we be using a different tool?
Great question. So we are actually exploring, given what we want to do, what the best platform is. It may be Zoom. However, if we find something that is more impactful and allows us to do have a little bit more interaction, we may actually use a different platform. And so we haven't settled on the platform yet. Zoom allows us to do some things, but it doesn't allow us to do others. And so we are actually exploring what the best tool might be for what we want to do in the program.
And Bridget and Sarah, this is Dave. Just wondering if I could chime in, just seeing some of the questions around involvement afterwards and connection points after Ready Together, and then Bill, your comment around what we get out of it. So we get out of it all of you, and that has been for the last 40 years very powerful for Arizona. The connections made in Valley Leadership's leadership program, and frankly any leadership program in the state. What we hope you get out of it is something to your question, Lori, around what makes it different, especially for some of you who are alumni, and that is the real-timeness of what COVID has exposed. As you guys saw with the fire analogy, COVID has made some of the things in the issues we face more visible, more fragile. And so to be able to learn while in the midst of a pandemic and in the midst of a crisis where those things are more raw and more real time, we wanted to do that. So again, to some other questions, we intentionally paused all of our leadership programs. They won't begin again until September 2021 because we wanted to do something that was more relevant and as best relevant to what the community is facing now, and get people to dive into that. So we hope that there's lots to learn about adaptive leadership, lots to learn about how a lot of the issues that COVID has made brighter were here yesterday and they will be here tomorrow. And then to that end, encouraging all of you to be able to do something about it. So as part of the program, you'll start thinking about what that impact path looks like, that plan. We have created a new vehicle for impact with Valley Leadership. It's called the Impact Maker. That's an opportunity you'll be able to sync up to when you're done with the program, and that's what we want. Our vision is to see Arizonans working together to impact the most pressing issues, and we're going to use the current most pressing issue, COVID, to inform and help shape what we do going forward.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, and the other thing I'll say about like what is VL hoping, part of our mission and vision is to get a broad spectrum of Arizonans involved, and really doing this experience in this sort of way at this time allows us not to just bring together folks who are living in and near Phoenix, but who are part of Arizona more broadly as well. And that really allows us to expand to that, as many Arizonans as we can.
Thanks, Bridget. There's two questions that I'm hoping that you and or Dave can touch on related to access. So one is around whether or not scholarship opportunities are available. The next one being around, folks who are familiar with Valley Leadership are familiar with the selection process. So maybe talk about how that's going to vary and what that's going to look like in terms of access and class size.
Yes, good questions. So the first I'll take is around the selection process. So just like any of our programs, there's an application. However, for those of you who may be familiar with Institute, where there's also a interview process as well, this there is not an interview process for this, and so we're selecting based on what we see in the application. And as far as class size, because of the platform and the functionality, we are able to, while there are still limits, we are able to, again, really provide this opportunity to more folks. And so the amount of people that we bring in is really limited by the alignment to what it is that we're doing, and then the amount of people that we are allowed to bring into the platform, depending on the platform that we decide to use. As to the second question around scholarships, I did see somebody mention that. There is a question in the application about whether you're experiencing financial hardship. And if you are, just ask that you share a little bit more with us. The whole reason we have the scaffolded amounts is to account for the financial aspect, and we actually have a much lower cost to this in order to be able to open this up to more folks. And Dave, is there anything else that you'd like to say on that?
No, no, thank you. That was good. Sorry, I didn't know if I was on mute or not.
Sarah, do we have any more questions coming in?
Well, sorry, Bridget, I will, now that I see Jen's question. I would say Ready Together is less competitive than our Institute or Accelerate programs in that the application is smaller, scoring will be a little different. And to your point about the huge civic resume, one of the things Valley Leadership has been doing for the last couple of years is not having that be a huge prerequisite. It's not I've done all these things, it's the articulation that you're going to do all these things. That's more important. We want the people who want to gain a good understanding context of our issues, but then be able to prove to us that they're going to go do something about it, even whether or not they get into Valley Leadership or not. Those are the type of people and leaders we want to see. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean someone who has a resume filled with lots of different civic engagement. That certainly is an indicator, but we're also looking for the people who, for whatever reason, may have not just had the time or ability access to get that out there. We want to see you in the program too.
Great. I think the only other question that we could expand upon a bit more is just some of the common ways that folks from Ready Together or just in general Valley Leadership are getting engaged in the community following a program experience.
Oh, great question. Dave, I'm going to toss that one over to you. Maybe share a little bit about Impact Maker and other ways you're seeing people getting involved.
Yes, so recently we launched about 1.5 years ago this thing called the Impact Maker, which has various impact teams working on issues facing Arizona. They are a constellation of alumni, current class members from Institute, strategic partners who are doing work in communities already, and all together looking and working towards an outcome. So they're very execution-based. We spent little time on vision because I think Arizonans know what they want. It's now working towards getting there. So there'll be that as an opportunity. And then just going through the class, you'll start to explore what your own path would look like. And that could be, again, we've kind of organized that around what you as an individual can do, what you can do as part of your community, and then what you can do systemically. Ultimately, Impact Maker is about systemic change and improvement in these issues. But that doesn't mean or make any less important individual actions you can take or community actions you can take. VL is very driven to do. That's our first principle of doing. And so we will help you explore what that do for you would look like.
Great. Sarah, any last questions that came in?
No, I think we've captured all of them, but if anyone feels that they haven't got the answer they're looking for, maybe we can just see if anyone would like to throw anything else back out into the Q&A.
Oh, looks like maybe one more came in there. Or one more maybe coming in.
Yeah, it looks like it's around tangible examples of projects that have resulted from work of alumni. So I don't know if, Dave, you might want to tackle that one.
Sure, and I encourage everybody to visit impactmakeraz.org. That is the VL pivot and the example that we're using going forward. So for 40 years, VL would do projects as part of the Institute cohort. And what we learned as Phoenix has grown is that projects need to be viewed in a lens of more long-term. We're a large enough city and a large enough state that continues to grow that we're going to need to address issues more systemically, less ad hoc project-based stuff. So the Impact Maker is the manifestation of that. There are projects within what those teams are working on that you'll see, we call them to-do items. but they're part of a bigger picture when it comes to creating that systemic change we need. So that's the kind of stuff you'll be, we hope anyway, you'd be interested in participating in. And you can look through the website there to see all the different things across 5 teams that our alumni and partners and community champions are working on.
All right. And on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Really appreciate you for your time, and want to encourage you to go to valleyleadership.org/readytogether to learn more about the program, to apply. You can also find a link to Impact Maker, which is what Dave was just talking about there, to learn more about that. And if there are any questions that we have not answered that you have, please feel free to email us at vl@valleyleadership.org. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing your application. Have a great rest of your night. Bye.